Play from current slide.
Good. Can we start? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Aloha. My name is Kekoa. If you need to get in contact with me, I left my email, and then this is our Makai Watch website. So it's https://dlnr.hawaii.gov/Makai Watch. So a little bit about myself before we begin. I went to the University of Miami. I came back home with a degree in marine science and biology. I started volunteering at Kekoa Farms, and they sent me to this Makai Watch workshop. So it's the first of its kind in 2005. From that Makai Watch workshop, I got hired to work in the Big Island, so in Hawaiʻi Island. I worked with 3 communities over there: Ho'okena, Honolulu, and WIKI. So I was a community nonprofit working with the Makai Watch program. And then I moved to Maui. I met my other half, and we had our keiki there. And I started coordinating Kaanapali. So Kaanapali was a little bit different. More hotels, big landowners. And then after that, I moved to Oahu, and then I started to work for the Division of Conservation and Resources Enforcement, so GoCare, as the Makai Watch coordinator. So my experience with this program was from a community perspective, from the biology side and Division of Aquatic Resources, and now in enforcement. So I kind of have all these different perspectives on this program and seeing how things work. That's kind of a little bit about myself. So what is Makai Watch? So there's 2 components of Makai Watch. The first one is awareness raising and outreach. So that's educating people, right? Telling them this is the legal size of the fish, this is the legal size of nets. Another thing you can do is biological monitoring. So we tell folks, when you jump in the water and you're checking out the resources, you can explain to people firsthand, this is what the fish is doing, this is what our corals look like. Another thing is observation and incident reporting. So this is, if you see a violation, how do you report it to GoCare? What do they need to know in order to follow up and report it back? One of the things that we tell folks is community surveys. So a community survey is going on the beach. So if you were out here, you take a little potty sheet and be like, how many people are snorkeling? How many people are kayaking? How many people are surfing? And just to get an idea of what is happening on the beach. So you have this baseline of what should be happening. So if you see somebody coming in a kayak, you're like, we don't have kayaks in this area. So it kind of just gives you a baseline of what's happening, right? The third piece that's optional is monitoring. So the reason why monitoring is optional is because across the state, this is a statewide program. Every community monitors differently. So in Ho'okena, they were looking at manini and kole because those kind of fish are daylight. In Hawaii, in Ha'ena, they're catching mullet and moi, so that's the kind of fish that they're monitoring and looking at. So all of these different communities monitor for what they're hungry for what they want to fish for. So we couldn't make it a standardized thing. So that's why it became an optional component. And we told folks, when you jump in the water, you still these things. When you get your face like not, and they're like, oh, we're using report. Okay, so a little bit, where was this program? Where did it come from? So in the early 2000s in Hawaiʻi Island, WIKI started their WIKI Coastal Watch. And then in Maui, Hanauma kind of adopted it over there. So we had these 2 communities kind of starting up grassroots. In 2005, 2006, there was an official partnership with the DLNR. So they were like, you know what, we really like this program. We want to become a partner. So from 2005 to 2006, that's when I kind of came on board. So the program at that time, so in Honolulu, we were doing summer fun programs. So there was a lot of outreach and education with folks. We were doing the Opelu project. So people who are fishing were learning that what kind of, what they were doing, how much Opelu they were doing out, and we were teaching the kids how to do that. In Ho'okena, I ended up becoming a part-time teacher. And what we did was we got credit for the school kids to come down and teach the tallies of the fish counts, do the videos, and then they would produce the math charts, summarize the data, and then they would get math credit for it. So we were doing all this kind of education stuff at that time. Something that happened that kind of made the DLNR realize, okay, we gotta figure out this program was, we had this chunk of money in DLNR. There was a boat that hit the ground, or hit the reef, so there was a grounding, and they got a chunk of change from this incident. So they're like, let's give it to the Makai communities. But in Ho'okena and Hanauma, they didn't have a way to funnel the money to them. They didn't have a nonprofit. We were just a community group who would show up and potluck and just organize themselves. So we didn't have a way to fund money. So at that time, in 2010, they're like, you know what? We gotta start to standardize this program so that it'll work as a state program. So we partnered with DOCARE, the Division of Conservation and Resource Enforcement, and standardized how we report to DOCARE. In 2011 and 2012, we went through a strategic planning, figuring out, okay, this is a strategy of how we're going to implement Makai Watch. In 2013, they hired a coordinator because without a coordinator, this plan would just be a plan on the shelf. It wouldn't be implemented, it wouldn't have things to walk. And then in 2014, one of the first things we did was get this program approved by the VLNR so that they support it, they know what it is. So, when we went to the board, we put in, Makai Watch is an engagement program for conservation and resources enforcement. It's a way for the community to become educated, but also to build a relationship with our enforcement officers. So we're running this program statewide. So we have 2 communities in Hana and Hanalei, so I'm Poli, Pupuke and Mauna Lua, Oahu, Ka'anapali and Ka'ehu on Maui, and Poko and Kutulehu on Hawaiʻi. So we have 8 communities that we work with right now. We have an advisory group that helps to guide us. They also help us if we need funding, as well as in the legislature. I'm not a great politician person, that's not my game, but some of these folks do know how to work things in the legislature. So we have the DLNR chair that sits on our advisory group. We have a representative from Aquatic Resources. We have a representative from Conservation and Resources Enforcement, and we have a representative from the Hawaiʻi Island Humpback Whale Sanctuary. So they sit on top of our advisory group because 7 of the 8 communities fall within that sanctuary boundaries. Our program partners, so we have the Nature Conservancy, Hawaii Wildlife Fund, Project Saving, and Kua'aina Ulu Awamu. Conservation International and our Casa Foundation, so these are our funders. These are who funded my position to begin with. And now we have continued funding. We wrote our own grants and I'm going to share how we've been building that program. Okay, so because we're a state program, there's liabilities, there's legalities that we need to meet in order to be a state program. So one of those is organizational representation. So this means that you have an organization or sponsor who can do business in Hawaii. And this will eliminate that problem when we had to jump the change to get to the communities. If they have this representation, they'll be able to get funds and they'll be able to write for grants and receive funds like that. So that was the first requirement. You gotta have organizational representation, a sponsor who can get you funds and so that you can be sustainable. The second thing was program support and evaluation. So program support means partnering with like the Nature Conservancy to help you do your biological monitoring. Partnering in to figure out what is your human use in the area, what is the baseline that's happening there. The other thing was having a Makai Watch state program coordinator. So this was a key component because you have the state entity with our coordinator and you have the community. They need a coordinator to keep them organized and kind of have a way into the community and one single voice can do that help. Minimum activity. So this was what we felt, or when they made that strategy, was 20 hours per month. They felt if volunteers were out there 20 hours a month, that would be enough time to engage people, for people to understand this is the rules of the area. Management of the volunteers. So a lot of the volunteers sometimes don't understand what they're getting themselves into. They think that they might have enforcement powers and they have this authority. So we try to manage them, train them up so that they know what the rules and regulations are, what is there if they don't have any enforcement authority at all. They're not deputized or anything like that. Along with training, you do education for the volunteers, so education in the Division of Aquatic Resource rules, as well as the voting rules. We also do site program manuals and quick reference guides. So this is so that when a volunteer volunteers with them, they have all these different standards of what the monitor needs to comply with, as well as the history of the area, the culture of the area, what are the important things in the area. And this is good reference guide so that they can pass it out to people. It's like a little brochure saying, hey, this is our area, this is the boundaries, these are the things that we look at. Coordination with the DLNR. So we ask that on a monthly basis they turn in what is happening. We put a monthly report so that we can follow up and see what cases have been turned in and what cases have been followed up on. And the final thing is record keeping and reporting. So again, keeping track of what's happening, reporting it to us so that we can have this communication back and forth. So we have safety guidelines, and this is something that we train all of our volunteers in. So the first part, no offensive action, never confront somebody, never use your argument, don't provide any personal information. So basically we're saying you don't go and engage with any violation, you just observe. That's all we do with the crime. We just observe what's happening. We can write the report down and turn it in. Be aware of your surroundings and what's happening. Always have telephone with you so you can call 911. Use the WIKI system so that you can always have a partner. Same thing with diving. Photography. So if you take a picture, make sure you take a picture from a safe distance. Make sure that you have certain. We train the volunteers so that they know what should be in the picture and what we don't need. Police assistance. So if you need 911, call them. That's what they're there for. Social media and information sharing. So this is something that a lot of the volunteers they have to work with them on because they're like, why can't we post it on YouTube or put it on Twitter? And the reason is because if it's going to be a report that is going to be used in court, it needs to be done a certain way. And if you go and post pictures up on social media, enforcement cannot really use that anymore. And the last thing is, be familiar with the applicable laws, rules, and regulations. So this is kind of like the safety guidelines that we go over with our volunteers so that they know what they should be doing out there. Okay, so this is kind of the part where how is the state agency, the enforcement agency, WIKI, involved with the Makai program? How do they engage with Makai? So a couple of ways they do is they respond to violation reports. Makai isn't a priority, but what they are is an actionable report we have focused. So because they're trained, Makai volunteers are trained, they're able to identify the violation, fill out the report correctly, and provide all the information so that an officer responding can follow up on it. They provide safety protocols. So kind of like what we shared with you, other different ways to engage, not engage. Training. So we provide trainings. Conflict resolution, I'll try to touch upon that, have a couple of slides with that. Makai event support. So different communities have outreach events. So we show up with our WIKI tent, pass out stuff about enforcement, talk about what's happening in the area. And the last thing we do is provide letters of support. So any of the Makai communities going for funding, we can provide letters of support saying that yes, we work with this community and we support their projects. Okay, so these are the lessons learned. So all of these lessons learned has been my experience with the program and how situations have come up and this is how we dealt with it. This is the solution that I've used. I tell people it's like seeds. You can take this knowledge with you. You can try and grow it in another area. It's not going to be the same. It's going to grow how it's supposed to grow in that area. Same with seeds in Hawaii. You pick seeds from Hawaiʻi Island, take them to Hawaii and plant them. Not going to be the same as the Hawaiʻi Island tree. It's going to grow different from that area. So the first lesson learned was when we had that observation incident reporting standardization in 2010. It was great because those who were now engaged with the community, they were at this training saying, okay, when you report to this, this is what we need to know. This is what we need to follow up on so that we can make an effective reporting system. The thing that happened was now all the volunteers and everybody knew how to report to WIKI, but they didn't know the difference between a violation and what wasn't a violation. So WIKI was being swamped with all of these calls and reports coming in of people saying, hey, this is happening. Oh, there's an undersized net, when the net is actually legal used in that manner. So the lesson learned was we needed to train people in what was the rules and what wasn't illegal and what was legal. So we came up with this WIKI pilot curriculum. So this curriculum, I'm gonna pass it around. This curriculum, we wrote a grant to NOAA, and we partner with Aquatic Resources. So it's Enforcement and Aquatic Resources that produce this curriculum. So in this curriculum, we made a training, and how the training worked was you identify the fish. So we teach people how to ID fish. There's a couple in there where oholeholes. People are like, okay, two different kinds of oholeholes. But we tell them it doesn't matter which oholehole because they're both regulated. So that's the thing, you have to know which fish is which. The other thing is we bring a picture of a moya and a mullet, because they're pretty similar. And tell people, oh, can you tell the difference between the two? Our volunteers need to be able to distinguish that because certain fish at certain times of the year are kapu and certain times they're not. So you need to be able to distinguish, oh, one moya from one mullet because they have different seasons. Okay, another thing that happened was we had communities who are doing fish spawning, so they come up with their calendars, and they were telling us that, hey, you know, our calendars tell you when the fish is spawning in our area, but your guys' rule book, the state rule book, is wrong because it's like a blanket for the whole state. It doesn't match each community how we're figuring out. So this is one of those times I had to stand there and figure out okay, how are we going to respond to that? So I told Andy, when an officer shows up to your community, he's not going to jump out of his local truck and be like, I'm going to cite you because the community calendar says that you're catching fish out of season. They can only use the state rule book. So that's one thing that we can try and clarify between folks. Like, where should this knowledge go? Where should the complaints go based upon is it aquatic resources or enforcement? Okay, so this is a good one. DOCA really appreciates this program because of how we filter out the reports. So in Ka'anapali, in Maui, they have an online system where volunteers can go online and report stuff. So when I took, for 1 year, we took how many reports were submitted? So about 200. Out of all those reports, now we get the reports on a daily basis, we see only 4 of them we sent to DOCA, and they followed up on all 4 of those. So that means instead of the enforcement people having to deal with 200 reports coming in, they only have to deal with 4. And they really appreciate that because it filters out what is a violation, what is just an observation, what doesn't have all the information there, and it just passes on the actionable reports to them. One good thing about the observation, the online observation, is that we start to figure out what's happening. So when people were turning in their reports, they say, oh, we saw a guy, but with like a 3-prong, and he was putting a streamer that had 1 money in his pouch. So that's an illegal action. So we started to figure out how many people are fishing, how many people are fish feeding, how many people are anchoring, thrill crafting in there, camping. What kind of fishing gear are they using? Are they using spear guns, poles, spears? Are they going off of a boat? Where are the fishers from? Are they tourist residents? And do they know about the management area? So all of this kind of stuff we can get from that observation reports. One thing that was interesting from this area is, you notice that there's 32% tourists, but they're fishing. They're stopping at Walmart, grabbing one pole and going fishing out there. They don't know the rules, but they're fishing because they're in Hawaii and they want to go fish. So this made us feel like, hey, let's take some of these fishing rigs in the Maui Walmart, in the Maui Kmart, right when you leave in the airport. That's where the guys are grabbing their poles, driving up to Hanapali and fishing up there. Okay, so this conflict resolution has probably been one of the most intense parts of Makai Watch, but it's been the best lesson learned because it has been a way to like bridge the gaps, and this is where Makai Watch is special. So we had a community who wanted to partner with us, and there was an incident where one of their community members ended up committing a violation. So the community felt really bad. We had this meeting together. Call it a Ho'oponopono. It was the first time when DOCA, a state agency, probably participated in a Ho'oponopono. We sat down with them. I was like, you know what? In the end, we're still going to come because that's our kuleana, is to come and enforce this area to help you guys take care of your resources. And we kind of left it as that, but we didn't forget about them. So as part of our future funding, we included them in a grant, and the grant is to like build a relationship with the fishers. So that community was targeted for this grant to rebuild that relationship with the community fishers and the enforcement officers there, so that they can move forward, so that they can know what each other is doing. Another community. So this community was reporting things happening there, and some of the commercial operators in this community heard and was saying, "Hey, what's going on? How much is singling out all these commercial operators?" They're like, "Oh, you know what? That's not how actually it's putting on." So we invited them. We're like, "Here, you guys can come to this meeting." So we invited all the commercial operators. We brought the boating guys, so division of boating. We brought division of aquatic resources. We brought enforcement. So that was my role. All I did was bring everybody to the table. Aquatic researchers stood up and said, "Okay, in this area, these are the rules and regulations that we have heard people have been violating." So they went up there and clarified. The boating guys came up and said, "For the boating side, these are the rules and regulations that we heard have been violated." After they both explained, we opened it up for other commercial operators to explain or clarify any assumptions or misunderstandings. So they stood up and said, "Oh, you know, like when we pull up, we more right there, right? So we're legal. But as the day goes on, we drift over the line." So those guys stood up and said, "That will give us a reason to say that, because you just said you drifted over the line. So it doesn't matter if you're 10 feet over the line or a mile over the line. The fact that you're over the line is something that we will sanction on." So it's this clarification for everybody in this community to understand these are the rules and regulations. And it was just bringing everybody to the table who had the answers, who could solve this problem. Another thing that just happened, so one of our volunteers had reported something and ended up getting a violation themselves as well. This happened in the Big Island. So we had this big community meeting where the community said, "Hey, they're picking on us. Enforcement came and picked on us because we were saying they weren't doing their job." And enforcement said, "Actually, this is what happened." And after they explained the whole situation of the reporting and what was filed after, the community apologized and said, "You know what, we're sorry, because we didn't understand the whole situation. Now that we understand, we don't want to lose the relationship with you guys." It was interesting because our officers there had started that whole process without me having to do that, which was a good thing because it makes it sustainable. And that's the thing is, when you have somebody extra in the middle like me having to do all this running around, I need to fly to Hawaii Island, I need to fly to Hawaii, I need to fly to Maui to help these things. It would be better if we can find people on Maui, on Hawaii Island who can do this kind of work so that it will be sustainable and they just build a relationship on that end. Okay. So one of the things everybody always asks about is, "Oh man, what about vigilante volunteers?" So we had a volunteer, and I stepped out of line. There was an incident where at the community outreach event, he went in there and got across the buckets. There was a dive boat in the area, a USGS dive boat. Kind of went out there and heard some stuff. And then they were very frustrated, so they're like, "We want to write an email." And I told them, "You know what, send an email to me, I'll help you figure out and decipher things out, and you can send that out and revise it." They decided to send it to everybody in the DLNR panel. And it talked about corruption in DLNR and all this kind of stuff. So we're like, "You know what? This is one of those examples of vigilante volunteers. What do we need to do?" So in the Makai Watch program, we have these policies. So we have disciplinary policy. So it has like warning, probation, talk with the supervisor, and then dismissal for the program. We also have a program dismissal policy to address this kind of stuff, because this has been one of the things that the state and all different entities that will say, "What about vigilantism?" So we have a way to address that. And we have that volunteer was dismissed from the program for a year. So we say, "You know what? We're going to dismiss you from this program for a year, and you can come back after." It's been more than a year. The volunteer still comes back, hasn't stepped out of line, but this dismissal program has really helped. Just to keep kind of people accountable for their actions. Okay. So the second thing we did, along with that training, was once we made that first training, everybody, "We love that training, but that's only aquatic resources. We still have to deal with boating issues too." So we wrote a grant to the Hawaii Tourism Authority to say, "Hey, we would like to work with boating and create a curriculum similar that we need to aquatic resources." So this is also available on our Makai website. The interesting thing with this one is, hey, Makai is a big program. Let's try and throw it out there and see what we can do with it. So there's been a lot of things happening in Hawaiʻi with the man tour operators. I don't know if you guys heard in the news, right? They're like, let's take this curriculum and go and test it on the man operators. So there I went. I went out to go talk to the man operators. And it's really fun because I've been sharing all these things and they started questioning a whole bunch of things that I need to educate, like the marine mammal laws, the voting laws. I had to be on it. But after I shared this conflict resolution of when you partner with OPEC, what happens? The operators question each other, saying, do we really want enforcement to be watching us like this, to be hawks on us? Because is everybody in here legal with what we're doing? And then most of them were like, yeah, there were some that was quiet. But it made them realize it kind of to become accountable on themselves. Like, do we really want enforcement to come? One of the things that we say with the communities is, if you want to work with enforcement, you need to be the role model. All these other communities say like, oh, it's all the other people. But when Docker shows up, they're not going to differentiate the community from all the other communities. They're going to say everybody here is the same. So if you're a partner with us, you should be the role model, not the one getting a violation. And that's kind of how people keep accountable and stuff. Another thing that happened with this curriculum, so in Hawaii, in Honolulu, one of our Makai states, they got a whole bunch of different entities there. So not only do they have states, so voting rules and enforcement there, but they also have county rules with the same thing. So it's the surf schools and the tours that happen in Honolulu. They have county rules and they have state rules. So this is overlap between county and state. It's the same thing, right? I learned my lesson from the other community. I was like, okay, we're going into this community. I need to get all these different people to the table. So I started from the bottom up and I got all these different agencies to come. So we had voting, we had enforcement, we had aquatic resources from the state side, we had NOAA come, and then from the county side, we had the county park rangers, we had county parks and recs, we had the county prosecutors show up, so that we had all these different entities so that they could sit at the table and say, this is the county's rules and regulations, this is our jurisdiction, this is the state's rules and regulations, this is our jurisdiction, this is where we overlap, and this is your kuleana, this is your kuleana. That way when our volunteers call, they're not like, oh, actually, that's the county's rules, or, oh, no, that's the state rules. We clarified it in the state and say, this is your boundary, this is the area. So that was a good thing about this curriculum. Like, we got to work and bridge between divisions. Not only divisions within the DNR, but divisions between county and federal and state. Okay, so next steps. Funding is probably the hardest one. For the 3 years that I've been in this position, we've been trying to get it funded through the legislature. Not really listening yet. So we're going to keep trying. But we did get funding. I learned how to write grants, and I ended up writing my own grants to fund myself. So I said that. One of the things we want to do is have these site meetings and trainings. So we're going to continue going on a meeting. One of the things that officers, so this presentation that I just gave you, we took this presentation to each island to go and talk with our officers. And we asked them, how can this program help you? Where's the purpose in the program? What do you see as the problem and how can you fix this program? So we took all that information from them and we said, okay, this is how we can evaluate the program based upon enforcement. One of the things they said is we want to meet the volunteers face to face. We want to sit with them in the room and talk to them so that we can know who's this person calling us up on the phone instead of just knowing the name. We'll know the face of that person. And then we can train them. So another thing is all these communities having their own issues and DOCARE is having their own responses to it. So bringing them together to train only makes it that much better. Makai and CBSFA overlap. So CBSFA is the community-based subsistence fishing areas. So right now in Hana, there is a community-based subsistence fishing area. There are also a Makai community. So this is the first time where we're overlapping with the Makai and CBSFA. So it's going to be one of these hot spots where we're going to figure out how does this thing work, how do these two programs overlap, how do they engage. And what's interesting is the Makai Watch is a DNR program in enforcement. So we're in DOCARE. The CBSFA, the community-based subsistence fishing area program, is also in DNR, but it's in aquatic resources. So So we're gonna figure out how these two divisions kind of merge and work together to build this. This asset project, so alternative sentencing and supplemental environmental training. So this was my first experience going over to the legislature and having to work with a bill. And it's very interesting learning how politics work. I realize that's not my place, and that's why I put my head in the water a lot, stay there. But what this is we have this environmental court. So a lot of the times when officers take cases and stuff, we have like a rape case, domestic violence, and then you have some guy coming in with 500 size volleyball. The judge is like, I just listened to two horrendous cases. This guy with 5 volleyball dismiss your case, dismiss the case, right? So now we have this way versus environmental court where the judges are trained. They kind of understand more the ecological effects of when you take out 5 volleyball. How many fish could have been there 5 years later from those 5 volleyball. So these judges now have the authority or the ability to not only fine but to give community service as well as going through online education. So the curriculum that you guys just saw, they're going to turn it into an online education tool where violators who are going to participate in this will take that online course, they'll go through that, and then they'll probably do community service along with that. In one of these areas where they can go back to the community and work with them and be like, oh, this is what we're taking from. Maybe that'll help build that relationship so that they understand what is happening. Okay, so like I said, I had to write from my own position, right? Because we're not getting funding. So one of them is this resources enforcement educating fishers project. So this was written because of all these different communities where things are happening, but we still wanted to build a relationship, right? A lot of the time, the fishing community is left out of decisions. Like communities are like, we want to do this, we want to do this, but they don't involve the fishers because usually it has to do with the fishing groups. So this project is to go directly to the fishers and work with them to build a relationship with them and enforcement officers. One of the things that we see is if we can build a relationship with them from the start, later on down the road when these communities want to do a serious affair or they want to make rules, that relationship with the fishers is already built. So we already have a good understanding of what will work and what won't work. So that's one project that we're already working on. The other one is we wrote to Noah, asking them, hey, can we continue this project? So we have a couple of things that we threw into this project that we started to implement. So one of them is having these face-to-face meetings where we bring the officers and the communities together to have these top stories together. Another one is we're trying to figure out how to effectively report and make a reporting system so that it works smoothly. That pretty much is the Makai program. So that's it.
Normally, when you give this program, people like myself are here for why. I thought I was coming to a different program, so I really don't know what you're talking about most of the time.
Okay, so Makai, so what were you coming for?
I thought this was on turtles.
Oh. So it's about all different kind of rules and regulations. So not only
Are you saying in this program that each code and the village in that code that have different fishing rights and rules and regulations?
it has, so each community themselves fishes however they fish, but statewide there's state rules. So the DNR enforces the rules. So these are like statewide rules that every community, but within these statewide rules, there's also certain areas. So like Hanauma Bay is a managed area. So there's certain rules that you fish and not fish over here. If you go around the corner to like Makai Bay, that's another regulated area. If you keep on going to Kukuya, that's another regulated area. So it's quite so all these different areas have different rules that you can do. So that's why we try to educate folks.
So this is regular fishermen and commercial fishermen that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay, so you have that post, and you have this, what is that, each island has their own calendar?
Yeah, different communities make their own calendars. So
Does that coincide with what's in the book?
no. So what we say is this information in this calendar talking about the spawning, they need to take that to the Division of Aquatic Resources. So the Division of Aquatic Resources writes the rules and regulations for all the different marine species, for the streams and stuff. They write the rules and regulations for that. So when they say like go there, we're not doing it, that's the problem. Everybody's saying, oh, enforcement guys need to change rules. Enforcement guys cannot change rules. They can only enforce the rules. The aquatic resources guys can change the rules and write the rules if they manage it. Does that make sense?
Okay, one more question on that. Okay, so the state has, what fishing, fish at a certain time, what fishing time. So you guys are kind of like, oh, so I'm gonna go to the beach, don't mind if I'm cold, and I want to fish. I pull up the fish. It's out of season, but that I got my fish. I'm going for a fish. I'm going for fish. Can I get arrested?
So technically, yes, you can be cited for that fish.
But I'm getting it for myself, not fish.
So even for consumption, so commercial fishermen, if they're selling it, have certain rules. But even if you're just catching it for yourself, if you catch a holiday, just for take home, it still needs to be 5 inches. If you want to take it home. If it's 4 inches, you got to turn it back. Okay, yeah.
But if she caught more out of season.
Yeah, if you caught more out of season, you have to throw it back. Well, no, you have, the officer would have to come and actually say, yeah, but she could be.
You know, you said for these volunteers to take pictures.
Yeah.
If they put it on social media, you cannot enforce it. But you're telling us that volunteers, they can take pictures.
Yes, so they can take pictures. So what we say is, enforcement, if you take a picture on your phone, they're going to take your phone. Because in evidence and stuff, they need to take that and secure it so that it can be used in court of law. So we try to have a distinguished camera specifically to take pictures of all these incidents. So when enforcement needs that camera and needs that picture, they just take the whole camera. Because if you put it on top of your phone, you gotta take that phone. Whatever camera they take it on, they need to take it to make sure you're not like messing around with it or changing stuff. Or, so it needs to be like its own camera if you want to take pictures that turn into videos.
Were you involved with the
Sea cucumber. So we did go up to Waimanaalo and talk to the community out there. I wasn't really involved with the sea cucumber part. We were more involved with like when they were surrounding the folks and like kind of doing vigilantism. So that's why we went out there to address that issue. And the sea cucumber community, like, see, that's why we gotta go do this. So it's like kind of just educating them of what their options are and they should be doing. Like so when you go into a community, they're like, oh, we can just crack heads. That's the way we just did it. And it's like, you can't crack heads. And then have an empty sandwich in the back. Oh, you don't crack their heads. You can get arrested. They can come back here and eat the fish anyway. So they understand how what happens when you do crack heads. Like, what are their options? So you tell them, you can do it with tire. As a volunteer, you see what's happening. Write down, okay, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, 3 guys gonna lay net. Oh, same thing. Next week, Tuesday night. Oh, hey, these guys come every Tuesday night. I'm gonna let Don't Care know. Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, these 3 guys keep calling you or decisive, blah, 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 blah. You turn that into enforcement. That's what they call. Look at this. They built a pattern. It's on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock at this place. Our officers go up nighttime and weekends, just to let you know. So they can set this kind of stuff up where you just have like a nice thing. You wait for the guys to come, and then you incite them. So that's the way we help on the
What do you say?
So
you're coming back home.
you're not allowed to lay net at night.
Oh.
Remember when we grew up, we used to do that? We can't do that anymore. So that's illegal. Yep. So you can only lay the net for 4 hours. And this is the kind of stuff that you guys can learn in the training. So we will be having a training up at Kuku Camp Hawaiʻi on Saturday, June 25th, if you guys want to come. We're not going to talk about turtles the whole time, so you're more than welcome to come. You can learn all the different rules about the different fish in the area. You can experience the gear, so you can the lay nets, throw nets, spear guns. I bring some of my fancy kind of spears that you can like fold and detach. So that people come walking in with just like looks like a GoPro, and you start screaming together, you put the tip on, and you got yourself into the 3 pound.
One more question, you know, like, I noticed, 'cause I got us to go to Maui for her birthday. So I was looking at the Monokini tour things, and then they take you to an turtle dive. Is that legal? It's on their website. So I'm wondering how is that with you guys, if you guys do Maui too, right?
So, yeah.
They advertise that you swim with the turtles.
I don't know. That's a good question. I gotta go ask, because I don't know. So that's the thing. I'm an educator. There's an enforcement side to this whole thing that I've been learning, like how enforcement needs to work. Because if you're always just, how can I do this? How can I do that? And then, well, actually, this is how you need to do it and how to do it legally by the books in order to cite the person and to prosecute it. You need to follow these rules. And that's why everybody says it should be so easy, but it's not. In order to actually prosecute somebody and find them guilty, you need to make sure all the ducks are lined up. So, I don't know about that, but that's a good question. This is recorded, so I can follow up on that.
Yeah. Thank you. So thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week we'll be having Adam Ayers from National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, and we're talking about from planning to practice for the co-management of Hawaiʻi coral reef issues. So hope you guys can attend that one. Aloha, and hope you guys drive safe and have a great Sunday.
We were here last week, and this was supposed to be a turtle program, did you get something wrong?
From my understanding, that's what it's very much.
That's right. You can then go to the mind, you go back, go down.
Maybe the June ones, at least. See, this is the turtle population. It's next month. So next month. I think this month is fishery management.
Sorry about that.
It's next month. It's turtles.
I haven't been going for it like I live in like
That's why, like, this is my motto. So we do all the way to be there. And it's even worse.